SpongeBob Lights Camera Pants is an attempt to make a party game starring SpongeBob, one of the characters that most people should think of when they think of early 2000s cartoon classics. Or just characters for the cartoons in general, for that matter. And while the Game Boy Advance game is decent, it isn't exactly what the console game is. Earlier I stated this is a party game starring SpongeBob, but the Game Boy Advance game, oddly enough, was not a party game, but kind of like an extension to the SpongeBob movie game on Game Boy Advance. How it's a platformer with mini-games, challenges, enemies, and there's like different types of things you gotta do, like almost like a single-player party game, where you only play story mode, basically that. I was really excited to see the Yellow Yapper come onto the video game industry, see what his take on matters would be. And like me and my cat Gigi, which I don't have with me, so I'm going to have to use a plushie that looks a lot like her, well, let's just say I grew up loving the GBA game. Because not only did it really find a pretty soft spot in my heart, I mean, yeah, the game's pathetically easy and short now, but that's not a reason to call the GBA game bad. However, I'm not here to talk about the GBA port of a console party game. I'm here to cover, well, naturally, the console game. I never got my hands on this version until mid-2018, where naturally, I saw it in a store's clearance bin. And I thought, wow, $7? That's a steal for a SpongeBob game, considering that it was used and it looked pretty good, the case looked good, and hey, even they let me look at the disc, and the disc was shockingly fine. Not that many scratches or stains or even fingerprints for that matter. So I was like, yeah, I can spend $7 on this. I was curious, but also hesitant at the same time. In my head, I was like, okay, I loved the GBA game as a kid. Why not try out the console version? But I had more to worry about than wasting $7 for a PS2 game that could have not worked and was used. I have a friend named CMB163,000. He told me he got 2 copies of the game on 2 separate occasions. One was used, and from 2 different stores, I might add. One was used and had this loading screen glitch, and honestly, I kind of thought BS when I first thought about it, because I already knew of another SpongeBob game that came out before this with a similar issue, and you'd think the developers would try and fix that. Yeah, I'm looking in your direction, Revenge of the Flying Dutchman. Why is your loading glitch a problem on the PS2 version? Seriously, this game is unplayable. I wasted $8 on this because I didn't know about the loading screen glitch until after I bought it. It's still collecting dust on my shelf, however. Anyways, back to my story. He tells me about the loading screen glitch, how it pretty much just freezes the game and he has to restart the system. And I was like, okay, is it used? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, well, that's why, because it's used, you know. So then one day he comes back to me at school telling me he's got a brand new copy, fresh out of the factory, got the plastic wrap around the cover, and completely untouched. And you know what? He told me it still happened. It might be his console, or it might be the fact that he's using a slim PS2 or something to that effect. But I was really befuddled and watched other videos online after he told me about this, and I was all like, why? I don't think that's a possibility unless we're talking Revenge of the Flying Dutchman levels of unplayable. I only got forums for another SpongeBob game with a similar issue, which I'll get into in another video. Revenge of the Flying Dutchman, no less. However, I kind of doubted that, considering Revenge of the Flying Dutchman came out before Lights Camera Pants, and if everyone knew and talked about Revenge of the Flying Dutchman on the PS2 being legit unplayable, you'd think they'd fix it in Lights Camera Pants and it wouldn't be that big of a problem. So I thought that my friend maybe just had a bad copy of the game. Maybe it was dusty. Maybe his console had the grinding noise thing that everyone's talking about. So I got the game thinking, what could possibly go wrong with a $7 game? I know I wasn't too smart then. But, wouldn't you know it, the loading screen glitch that my friend CMB163,000 told me about, it never happened. It never happened. I'm not joking. The loading screen glitch that he mentioned, I never encountered. There was only one time where something like that kind of happened, where the game slowed down on the loading screen, but no, I didn't encounter this problem. I apologize, my friend CMB163000, but the loading screen issue plagued your copy and probably your experience with the game, but I never had the issue, so that covers my story for Lights, Camera, Pants. Let's go set up my PS2 and see how this fares on today's standards. Just gotta move my giant tub of game first. Set this down quickly.
Oh god, no. God. And there's no plugs. Maybe I should get an extension cord or a power strip or something. Well, let's see if I can at least plug it in on this side. Oh, there's one. Yeah, there's one. Okay. Come on. Okay, you know what? Hang on 1 second, everyone. Okay. I'm gonna try thinking outside the box because apparently trying to plug it in from the front isn't working. So I'm up on the stairs now, as you can see. Thinking I can get it around from the back. Let's see. Nope, still can't reach down there.
That TV is not a possibility. There's just no question. It's not an option. So, after a long 30-minute hassle of trying to plug all that stuff in, messing up my hair, getting sweaty in my good shirt, I might add, I decided to just give up. But not entirely. Because I believe even if you can't play on your shared TV that your roommate has, there's only one real way you can play. In your own hands on your own TV that was right behind me the entire time that I probably should have hooked it up to the begin with. And yes, I had to bring all of the stuff, the console, the tub, the cords, all the way back up here. So that's 2 trips and an extra hassle nonetheless. I could have either just made hassle down there, or I could have made hassle up here, and honestly, I'd rather make hassle up here than in the common areas. So, for once, let's actually play. Well, that was certainly a thing that I did. CMB163000 might have been right in warning me about this game. Not about the loading screen problem, that is still not something I've encountered yet. But another problem I have with the game. The game is massively disappointing. Now, before any hate comments come in, I think that disappointing does not mean bad. It means flawed, like there's just things I can't ignore. So the game is not bad, it's just flawed. Too flawed to be called outright good. Now, I do agree with Thoughtful's opinion that this is a very original party game that tries not to copy Mario Party, which is good for most times when it comes to party games these days, because most party games are just direct copies of Mario Party, in all honesty. But the game is just still, as I said before, too flawed to be called outright good. Starting with the story. Now, I am well aware that most party games don't need to have that complicated or original of a story, because, you know, it's more for the gameplay, the party aspect of it. But the story uses the story is used as a hook, so to speak, to separate it from Mario Party. Instead of being a game where you play with your friends and you just play with your friends, you play with your friends and you get some story with the characters you play with that can kind of help you connect with your friends, and you get to play story mode together. It's like that, kinda. For instance, depending on which character you play, to provide evidence that the story is indeed a hook to Light Skin My Pants, each individual cutscene that plays when you defeat or beat each 3 set of minigames is different depending on what character you play. And you get different dialogue, you get different variations, different personality, and sometimes even outright different scenes entirely. But the story in short terms is just kind of meh. The story is a movie producer named Gil Hammerstein has produced an opening role in the new Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy movie, and the main characters of SpongeBob want to compete in order to gain the role. That's really it. Now, to be fair to the story, the quotes and some lines are actually pretty funny and well delivered, like from Mermaid Man. But what gets it for me, guys, is that the long run of this game, it's just a little too simple. Like, yeah, Mario Party's simple too, but at least there was things you were doing along the way that kept me wanting to see until the end, except in Mario Party 7 where Bowser's Lovely Lift absolutely wrecked my time. I beat it eventually, but it took forever. Now, I think that in the long run of this game, what gets it for me, guys, is the fact that this story is just too simple. I like a simple story more than a confusingly complicated mess of a story. But I want things to look forward to, like plot twists, doing cool things, action. But instead it's just talk, and bicker. That's it. Most of the cutscenes are just talking and bickering. And that's kind of sad considering I use the cutscenes as like a way to look forward to what I get, what I beat. It's just flawed. It's disappointing. Because the cutscenes are okay at times, but they're just, I don't know, they're not worth the hours I put into this game. And the mini games, now that I think about it, aren't the best in the world either. Like, for instance, they're mainly pretty creative in concepts, but a good 66% of them are just kind of alright. I mean, some mini games, the computer difficulty is just unpredictable. Like, seriously. There's been games when I absolutely wrecked a computer player, when other games the computer player absolutely wrecked me. So, and that's fine for, those who want to challenge, but this is a little too hard to explain without just going into more detail. So let me say it like this. I'll explain this with the best possible example minigame. Order Up. This game revolves around 2 players on 2 teams of 2, cooking and delivering food, as well as cleaning up the trays, etc. It's a fine game in concept. It revolves around teamwork and communication, especially with 4 human players playing the game. But that's kind of unlikely considering not a lot of people have 4 PS2 controllers now. So you're most likely going to play maybe with 2 players. And this is when the biggest problem comes in. Not only is the AI massively racked up to a skyrocketingly fast level that I swear is by default faster than anything anyone can react to, but it's just not fair. Like, I lost the minigame and I still beat the set, yeah, but it was no question. I got wrecked. I got whooped. So the computer speed just skyrocketed, and I was playing on the normal standard difficulty, so that's kind of a problem. Now, to be fair, there's nothing wrong with the challenge. This would be fine if it was someone who was like in the late game or playing like a very later on minigame, but that's not the case here necessarily. It's fine to have a hard game, but when you have this game as the second minigame you ever play, that is when you know you've screwed things up. So not only was I introduced with a decent first minigame, but my first impressions were pretty tainted by the dreaded second minigame, Order Up. And that's another big problem. First impressions. You want to hook players so they want to keep playing your game. If you don't interest them at the start, you're just gonna kind of fade out into forgetfulness. Or you're just going to take forever to get to the actually good stuff, and then finally you will just lose players who just thought they wasted time playing a SpongeBob party game. And that's what really kills it for me, guys, is the first impressions really not kicking off with me. And here's the thing, first impressions mean a ton in the video game industry. That is not an exaggeration. That is no exaggeration. It's like, oh my god, I have just been blown away by this, because it's like, I wanted to love this game considering how much of a nostalgic soft spot I have for the GBA version, which is admittedly not as good as the console version gameplay-wise, but the GBA version is better in terms of if you want to play a game that's a single-player game. Finally, the controls. The controls are fine, I guess. I mean, the game works well, there's not a lot of input delay, and there are a couple games that are pretty fun to use with the controls. But that's the problem. The game is just kind of boring. Like, controls, I admit, a game that controls good is fine, and this game is no exception. Like, it controls fine, but here's the thing. I know that everyone complains about controls in video games being bad, but what if you had a bad controlling game that wasn't really that engaging? Like, I get it. There's a balance between fun and playable. But this is just plainly not something I'd say worked as well in terms of playable but not fun. It's like, the game is playable. It's just not for me. It's not fun. The controls are good. They don't hold the rest of the game down like Bubsy 3D and a ton of other games that just suck to begin with. But all in all, Lights Camera Pants is a very forgettable game that can be fun, but it takes time that I just don't want to invest in when I have college and a bunch of other stuff I want to do in my life. And here's the thing. Yes, I can invest in games and get a lot of fun out of the content. That is, if I put in the time. But here's the thing, guys. I played for 2 hours, and I only got to the third set of minigames before just giving up once I beat the third set. So, no joke, I never got through, like... I probably only got halfway through this game, and the fact that it took me 2 hours is just kind of slow. I mean, yeah, I don't like a quick game either, but I was bored for most of the 2 hours. Like, there was only 1 or 2 games that really stood out to me. All in all, SpongeBob Lights Camera Pants plays not really like a video game, but it plays more like an interactive cartoon episode than an actual game that you play. Like, most of the hooks are with the story and with the cutscenes that you earn by beating the minigames. And honestly, I think that's an okay idea for an interactive cartoon game, kind of like Until Dawn, except not as interactive. But this game is just, I don't know, guys. It just... I'd rather have more action than just waiting and watching. That's just me, though. Some other people could love interactive games, and I love Until Dawn because it has a lot of action in it. It has something that hooked me, but here, I don't know, guys. It's just not for me. In conclusion, I think Lights Camera Pants is not a bad game. I'm not giving it this harsh review because I think it's horrible or because I have a nostalgic bias against or with it, but I'm saying this, guys, because even though I love the Game Boy Advance games and SpongeBob as a cartoon, I think this game could have been way better. And looking back on it, I'm kind of glad I did review it because I would have just said it was good if I didn't play any more of it. I only played the Game Boy Advance version. If I didn't play the PS2 version, I wouldn't realize what flaws it had. So, all in all, I saw a new perspective of this game that probably CMB163000 wanted to tell me about, but he couldn't because of the infamous loading screen glitch. And buddy, I think you don't need the game anymore. Maybe it's just me, but maybe you shouldn't have to worry about the loading screen glitch because the game isn't that engaging to begin with. So, yes. All in all, the game is not a buyer in my opinion. Just don't buy it. Even if I got it for $7, don't buy it. It's not worth your time. I mean, unless you are an absolutely die-hard SpongeBob fan who wants to have a SpongeBob game for an old console, be my guest. But honestly, if you can find it for around $7, I'd say, yeah, that's reasonable. But if you find it at like $20, just don't buy it. Just don't buy it. Anyways, I'm the Maverick, double of Sigma. I hope you have a good one. I hope you enjoyed the video. See you next time.